Good morning, class. Today we are going to be making a nameplate. This is an example of one. Mine is a little bit big because of the screen restrictions, but you can see my name, Rosell, my last name. There's some textures on there. I glazed the top of it to have different colors on my letters versus my background, and I used coils and slabs in order to make it. So to start off, we're going to each get a slab of clay. I'll be cutting it with my wire cutter. If you find that maybe your slab of clay is a little uneven, or maybe there's some bumps, you might want to use the roller to get the bumps out on top. In order to roll, you'll have to stand. Otherwise, not much happens. You got to use that body weight. So that looks much better. Sometimes your paper towel may rip a little bit, and that's okay. Now I'm finding that my shape of my coil or my slab is pretty uneven, so I'm just going to round out the edges. Maybe I'll take my paintbrush and make sure it's nice and even. You could use a ruler, that'd probably work better than a paintbrush. I'm just cutting off that extra slab. If you want to make rounded edges, you could do that, or you could leave your edges square. If you want to cut a heart shape, you could do that, whatever shape you want, but make it big enough to fit some letters. I'm going to make it this rounded rectangle shape, what I kind of call a talk bubble. Putting my leftover clay in the middle of my table in a pile. And now I have my slab of clay. Maybe put some more paper towel underneath here. It's good to keep paper towels handy. The next step is going to be making some coils. So this is where I use that extra clay that I put in the middle of my table. I'm going to take a chunk of clay, roll it up, and move my slab away, and roll a coil out. I want to squish it a little bit more. There we go. So I'm just rolling it with my hand like that. I'm making a coil about the thickness of my pinky. So it's getting pretty close. And that is pretty good. So this time, instead of doing my whole name, I think I'm going to do H-R-L-R. Maybe my initials, or maybe just H-R. That's good. So I'm going to try to see how big I need it. Oh, I probably need it right about there. So I'm going to take my needle tool, just kind of mark where I want it cut. And cut it. I'll round off my little edges. Maybe make this bottom edge similar. So I have a good chunk for the beginning letter. Oh, almost perfect. So I'm going to measure that out to make sure it's the right size. Cut it off. Now I've got the two first parts of my name. I just have to make one more little coil to make the middle of my H of my first name. I'm going to measure that out. There you go. So I've got my, see, that might be too big. So I can always cut it again to make it a little bit smaller. Perfect now. Got the first letter of my first name, and that's good. I'm going to press it down just a little bit, not very much, but just enough that I can see where the letter is. Well, I can't see it too well. I can do a little bit more. If that's not working, I might just lift it up a little bit and draw a very light line so I can see where that is. Well, it's still on there. I want to be able to see where my letters are. Perfect. Saving my coils down here. I'm going to put them on in a second. In order to attach any piece of clay, I have to score and add slip. So scoring is when you make a cross-hatching motion. So I'm scratching my clay one way and then scratching it the other way. And then I'm scratching it this way and all the way where my letter is. And now I've done it one way, I've got to make sure you scratch it the second way. I can't just do it one direction. Now I've got that clay scratched, but I need to scratch both pieces so that they fit together. So I'm going to scratch my coils now, just on the side that is going to be touching the clay. Did it one direction, now I've got to do it two directions. One. And sometimes it takes just a little bit of time. Two pieces, and just my baby one now. Three. Now what's the last thing I need to do before I put them on top of each other and try to put them together? Add my slip. So I've got my little bucket of slip here. Sometimes it's just water and it'll make slip on the surface, and I'm just going to put a little bit. I don't know if that's scratched. You can always go back and scratch it a little bit better if you feel like it's not scratched well enough. Just a little bit on the surface. I don't want to soak it. There we go. It all depends on the size brush you have, about how many times you need to dip it. I don't really need to dip that many times because I got a big old brush. Alright, and now you've added that slip, which is the glue, and you stick it on. Just press gently. There you go. And you can smooth it out with your finger. Make sure it looks like you want it to look. If you want to use your tool, you have these tools as well. Can help you smooth. I want to try to smooth these two areas together. And that's my first letter. You'll do the same thing on your other letters that you did on this letter. One thing you should watch out for is if I was going to do my whole first name, which is Hannah, do you think Hannah would fit on this? H-A-N-N. Oh no! Ran out of room. So if you have a long name like that, you probably should make all your coils first and plan it out to make sure that you don't run out of space. I was just doing my initials, so I wasn't worried about running out of space. But if you're doing a whole name, really make sure that you're being careful and you've planned out how big each letter is going to be. I would even do all your coils before you scratch and attach anything. Alright, so that is what we're doing. You'll keep on making another coil, scratch and attach, until you get done, and then will be the adding texture. You can add whatever kind of details you want on the edges. I'll have some textures available for you guys if you want to press them in. Also, some other things you can do if you finish early is maybe I want to make something out of clay that's small and I could add on there. Such things could be like flowers. I was rolling it into a little ball. Or butterflies, so maybe I could pinch out a little flower by squishing the clay around and making a flower. You guys have played with clay and made lots of cool stuff. Those would be things you could add on to your piece. Now, if I wanted to add a flower in the corner because I had extra room, can I just stick it on there and now press it? Done! Nope, I would have to scratch and attach each petal. Every single petal. And that's how you would attach any extra details onto your nameplate. Alright, so I'll have to do the same thing with these, but I'm going to let you get started. Your turn.